Welcome to Reality Kink. This is Master Hook, and I need to start this episode off with an apology. Actually, a correction. Actually, both. In the last episode, which I did, one of the things that I had talked about was in the cupping scene, the fireplace scene that happened, that there was no cupping marks left on the next day on the friend of ours who was the bottom of the scene. And I was wrong. There was. I was going off the little information that I had, and obviously I was wrong. So I do have to apologize for that. But I think that should be as much as I need to apologize and just let people know that if I do make a mistake, please get a hold of me, and I'm more than happy to correct myself. Beyond that, get a hold of me if you have a question or a comment or anything else. I'm on YouTube under Master Hook. I'm on FetLife under Master Hook and Master Hook YT, masterhookyt@gmail.com, Twitter at Master Mike Hook, and, pretty much anywhere else you can find me. Get a hold of me, ask a question. More than happy, because I do need some content for this podcast. So if you got something you want to contribute, please contribute it. More than happy to deal with it. More than happy to put it out there for you. So that's it for now. I'm going to take a small break, do a little commercial thingy, then come back with the rest of the show. Be well and safe. Before I get started with today's show, I wanted to kind of tell you people where you can find this podcast. If you're listening to it on whatever format, if you're watching the video on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Master Hook, or if you're listening to it on Stitcher, or you're listening to it on iTunes, there's a great place you can go to where you can find not only this podcast, but many, many other kinky podcasts out there, and that's kinkpodcast.com. And I just wanted to say thank you to them, and tell people if you're listening to this, head over there, check out all the other podcasts. Let's take it from there. All right, kinkpodcast.com. Welcome back to Reality of Kink. This is Master Hook, and Valentine's Day is coming around the corner, and I think it would be a good time for me to actually give some advice about how to have a nice kinky Valentine. I think one of the things that people misunderstand about kink and BDSM and stuff is we actually love each other. We actually love our partners. We enjoy being with our partners. They are part of our lives. They are not just things that we use and abuse and throw in a corner and just pick back up when we're ready to use them. No. These are part of our lives. They are part of who we are and part of what makes us what we are. And we're not afraid to say, I love you. Sometimes the way I say I love you happens to be with hot wax. Happens to be with some bondage. And some extra time doing the fun sexual things that most people don't take the extra time to do. Now, I think that one of the things that if you're going to try to bring kink into your bedroom in a loving, caring manner, it can be done in a way that it's not too scary. You introduce it slowly. You don't just walk in and say, hey, I have all these candles and I'm going to light them and pour this hot wax all over you. You don't, because frankly, it's a rather scary proposition. You lightly introduce it. And you bring it up in pillow talk and dirty talk. You have the conversations where you bring up the ideas of these things. If you've never done anal sex is sometimes rather enjoyable, depending on who's doing it and why you're doing it, and sometimes it's, for either party could be incredibly enjoyable, could be painful, could be under different things, but you take the time and take the energy, you make sure you got plenty of lube, you make sure you've got time to do these things. You don't want to rush things when you're having good sex, and especially when you're introducing kink. You could go to your local mall and find a Spencer's and find little bondage kits and things like that, and I'm going to tell you, please don't. Don't encourage that kind of stuff, because it really doesn't show what we actually do in a positive light, because it's cheap and it's garbage and it falls apart. Unless it's like from Kink Lab or somebody like that who actually kind of gives a care about what BDSM is and actually cares about the quality of the product they put out. 90% of the stuff that's out there is cheap and it falls apart and it's pretty much useless. Most of the things that you have that you need, you already own. If you're a man, you probably own a tie or two. If you're a woman, you probably own a couple silk scarves. Most times you can go to a normal drugstore or Walmart and pick up a night mask. Those work perfectly as blindfolds. You can get all kinds of simple things at every place out there. We have this idea called pervertibles. When you get your head around the idea of what a pervertible is, you walk into a grocery store, or you walk into a hardware store, or you walk into any store in that regard, and you start thinking, oh, I could do this with that, and I can do this with that, I can do this with that. I was in a Harbor Freight today. I'm just walking around the store and thinking about, oh, here's this and there's that. I found forceps, really nice forceps that I'm probably going to buy to add to my fire kit for a couple bucks. Who would ever think that you'd walk into a tool hardware store and find equipment for BDSM play scene? Well, they have rope. Not the greatest rope, but they have rope. They have all kinds of things here, there, and everywhere that you would never even think twice about. Unless you were somebody who was very kinky. One of my favorite tasks that I've ever given to my girl is the sex salad. I know that when she hears this, it's going to make her blush by just me mentioning it. But going into a supermarket and giving a simple direction of find 4 things that she could use to play with herself with. And then, without washing or anything, cut them up, put them into a salad, and eat it. Or give it to your partner. It's not going to be harmful. It's not going to be too bad, especially, if it's a normal time of the month. And it's not that special time. But if you do it right, you can actually create something that is relatively incredibly sexy for nothing spectacular. Walking into any store, you can find things. Walking down, one of my favorite things is just walking through, like, the kitchen department of Walmart and finding, little utensils that I could turn into toys. The dollar store is an amazing place to go and get things. Every place you go, you have a potential of finding things to play with. But you have to use your imagination. And bring your partner in on it. Him, her, them. Bring them in. Talk about it. Go, ooh, could you take and see me spanking you with this wooden spoon and, play around with it a little bit just to kind of get the juices flowing. The more you talk about it, the more you bring it up, the more you are going to have the chance of actually being able to do something really fun and cool. Because if you don't, you're just going to get stuck in this rut. You get stuck in this rut where you're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over. And candy's nice, but I'm going to stop here for a second because I'm actually going to tell my girl to turn off the podcast at this moment, to skip forward for a while because I'm going to say something that is going to potentially ruin her Valentine's Day with me because it's going to involve something I'm going to talk about right here. So I'm going to give her about 10 seconds to hit pause and hit stop, and we'll continue forward. So, just, talk among yourself and, okay, so she should be done. So, one of the things that I wanted to do is she said, when I was talking to her about Valentine's Day, was she didn't want anything special. Maybe some candy. Well, that's kind of a dangerous thing to say to somebody like me. You don't just say, I want, some candy. Because the thing about it is that if you say you want some candy, you didn't say how you were going to be given the candy. So, I work at a place where I can get access to melt candies. I can get it for, not super cheap, but cheap. And so I decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to make her a Valentine's Day heart out of melted hot chocolate that I'm going to do over her body. And that's how she's going to get her Valentine's Day candy. It's not in a box. It's going to be drizzled over her body. I'm going to make the nice heart and fill it in, and then put in little different things, and then I'm going to remove it from her body and give it to her as her Valentine's Day present. That and the chocolate syrup I'm going to be using in certain parts of her body, and the whipped cream, and so on and so on. But that's part of the fun of it. And that's part of the thing is that using your imagination, you can do simple things that cost next to no money. Like I said, you already probably own a chunk of what you already need. You have a bed. You've got, you probably, if you have a headboard, then you have silk scarves or ties, and you can use them to tie up the person you're with for a little bit of time while you're playing with them. And really go for it. Don't just do half-hearted. No. If you're a guy and you aren't giving your girl oral, why not? Why aren't you? Why aren't you, you could sit here and give me all of this, it smells, this, that. Get the fuck over it. Get the fuck over it. Do you think that if you want them to go down and suck your cock, that smells like roses? Seriously. You asking them to do these things, and this is about them. This is about them for this day. You got another holiday coming up that I'm going to be promoting here on this, but it's going to be much different. It's called Steak and a Blowjob Day, and it's a 1 month. It's March 14th instead of February 14th. We'll get to that holiday, but you have to keep in mind, this is about her. This is about what makes her feel good. If you get a nice little orgasm on the side, that's awesome. But if all you're doing is you're going to go and get her a little wet and fuck her, and you're going to come and she is just going to sit there being bored and unsatisfied, can I tell you something, guys? And this is just being very truthful and honest. More than one time, guys like you have given me girls to fuck. Because the thing about it is that if you're not going to take the time to care about their needs and about their orgasms and about their needs, wants, and desires, they're going to go looking other places. They may, not necessarily do it right off the bat, but after a while, they have the stability of their marriage. But if you're just going to be, fuck them, turn over, and go to sleep, what the fuck do they have to do? Why do they have to really care about you other than you happen to be the father of their children? Take the time. Learn how to do it. Talk to them. Listen to them. Watch lesbian porn. The more you learn, the more you're going to figure out how to make your girl feel happy. And the more you do, the more orgasms you can give her, the more she's going to come back and want more. And by doing that, then you can start moving into the kinky stuff. You can start adding in kink elements. And by the way, any psychologist, any sex therapist out there would tell you adding kinks into your relationship is perfectly fine and normal and is perfectly okay. But do it in the right way. Don't just rush it in and go, hey, I want to try this, or I want to try this, or don't go watch 50 Shades of Grey and then go home and just rush into it. You're going to scare them, and you might scare yourself. And also be aware that by doing this, you might find that they want to be the top. That they want to be the ones in control. They might be the ones that want to be the bottoms, and they want you to be in control. And this is where you have to be open, and you have to be willing to talk and listen and be able to have these open, honest conversations that get deep and dark and go into places that the human mind can go into that scare people. I love those places. I love the deep into the pool where the monsters are, because that is where the fun is. But you gotta go in there and you gotta try. You gotta dig in. You gotta try. You got to make sure that she's getting her orgasm. She's getting her needs met. That so when she goes to focus on you and yours, that she already feels amazing and awesome. And then now you can start adding in these little things. You can spank her a bit. You can go, call her a naughty girl and call her a slut and a whore. And it's not a bad and negative thing. You've got to spend the time to really put your energy into it. Because if you don't, you're gonna wind up looking like a fool. You're just going to make it look like you're half-hearting trying. And they're not gonna care. You have to want it. You have to want to give them that orgasm. Because if all you care about is what's happening on your side of the genitals, you're kind of screwed. Take the time. Learn what is going on with them and make sure they get what they need. Because if you don't, you're going to wind up losing them eventually. And like I said, I've fucked more than many of women who were married and not thought twice about it. It's not an issue to me. That's not my morality. That's not what happens between me and them is not what's happening between them and whoever else. That's them and their lives. I just want something to play with. And if you don't think that's not happening, seriously, it's not that hard to figure out. You just have to be paying more attention. Now, take the time, sit, talk, have the discussions, have the conversations, learn what's going on in their heads. The more you learn about what turns them on, about what makes them wet, the more you can say, okay, let's go down that path. Let's talk about those things. Let's try those things. Let's do those things. And the thing is that you'll find by doing them, they open up more. They become this book that just opens wide and allows you to learn all of this info that you never thought possible. What turns them on, what turns them off. Suddenly, might have been trying for years and years to fuck them in the ass, and because you spent the time to give them that huge orgasm by going down on them and playing with their clit and giving them everything they want, they're willing to explore and allow you to fuck them in the ass. And there's so many guys out there who say that's what they want. They want that ability to fuck their girl in the ass. It's possible. My girl, she already knows. I don't even have to say anything to her. She knows it. We've had conversations about when we can, when we can't. And she's actually learned how to enjoy it. But usually I don't fuck her in the ass until I've already given her several orgasms, so that her body and her mind are already in that space where it becomes enjoyable. Using plenty of lube, plenty of, slow, I don't just go right in and start doing it. I'm taking the time and taking the energy and learning everything. I've learned everything about what I can do to make it more pleasurable for her, so that when I am able to do it and I am able to have my orgasm, it is amazing. It is to a point where when I'm done, I'm spent. And the thing about it is that by then I'm already about a good half hour or so into, 45 minutes into it. If you're a guy who's playing and your record time is about 10 minutes, please stop worrying about your dick being hard. Worry about giving her an orgasm. Worry about taking care of her needs and her desires. And the thing about it is, even if you are being the dominant in the position, you are being the dominant in the scene, you're being the dominant in the bedroom, Take control. Be the dominant. But know that one of the goals is to make sure she has this earth-shattering orgasm, because guess what? If you do, she'll come back for more, and she'll allow you to do more, and she'll allow you to get in there and do things that you have never thought possible. You can start exploring and doing new stuff and fun stuff, but be careful. I warn people all the time that when you enter this lifestyle, it's like being a kid in a candy store. You never know what's going to happen. You might get in there and find, oh, I like this and this and this, and she goes, I want all of these things over here that you have absolutely no interest, wants, or desires to. You have to be careful. I warn people about this. I warn people about this simply because I know it and I've seen it. But the thing about it is that there's absolutely no reason you can't bring a little bit of kink into the bedroom, especially on places like Valentine's Day. And you might find that it's enjoyable. You might find it's, it's something that you want to do more. And you'll find, surprisingly, it's something that she wants to do more. So, I'm going to cut it right here. I'm going to finish up this little podcast right now. This is a little short one. I'm going to do a much longer one later because I got the 50 Shades of Grey movie coming out. I'm going to be doing a very, very long podcast on that. If I'm lucky, I might have a few people I can get in and have some conversations with, but I'm not counting on it. But this is a good place to stop. So, like I said, put a little kink into your Valentines, and beyond that, be well and safe.